everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today's video is a tutorial on network simulation about basic switch configuration. So a few days ago, I've asked you guys on the channel if you want me to make a video tutorial on network simulation, and 100% of you guys said yes. So here is the video. In this video, I will show you how to download and install Packet Tracer, which is a network simulation tool from Cisco, which is free to download and install. So you can get started with your hands-on labs and home labs and learn all of these configurations. And then I can also share with you how to build your very own simulated network on the Packet Tracer tool and do some basic switch configuration. So this video is focused on Cisco commands and Cisco configuration because that's where I'm more experienced in. So if you're interested in this video, please stay tuned, and without further ado, let's get started with the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing that we will do is to download and install Packet Tracer, which is the network simulation tool that we're going to use to do all of our home labs and all of our network configuration. So you are going to go to the Skills for All page from Cisco Networking Academy. I will include the link in the description box below, so it'll be easier for you to access the page, and then you can click on the login here. Of course, if you don't have an account yet, you can always sign up for it. Just make sure to go through all of this form that they will be asking you to create a new account, and just accept everything and continue, and it'll take you to a welcome page. Then what you want to do next once you're logged in is to type in Packet Tracer in here. Cisco Packet Tracer, click on that, and then it will take you to the Packet Tracer page. And then you can click on the Getting Started with Cisco Packet Tracer. That's where you can download Packet Tracer. And then scroll down, and in Module 1, you can see in here where you can install Packet Tracer. Okay, so if you just click on Get Started in here, and scroll down, so this is where you can download Packet Tracer. They have a link for that, and then just click on whichever is applicable to your computer, if you're using Mac, Linux, or Windows, and save it, of course. Okay, so once it's finished downloading, you can click on it, the installer, and then just, of course, accept, click on next, and just install the program. Okay, so once it's finished installing, we can now launch it, and then there you have it. But before you can use the application or the program, you have to log into your Skills for All account. Okay, so once you're logged into your Skills for All account, you'll be able to use a Packet Tracer. So this is Cisco Packet Tracer. It's a network simulation tool that students and professionals use to design their networks and do some labs or some practice exercises. And if you have been studying Cisco or networking, and you wanted to apply all of those theories and knowledge that you have learned, this is a really good practice to do. So just a disclaimer before I get started with the hands-on and the tutorial, I am not going to teach all of what's in the Packet Tracer for this video. I'm going to just show you what we are going to be using for this video, and we are not going to be building switches from scratch in here just like we do in the workplace. This video will be focused on just the basics of switching, like basic VLANs, VLAN assignment, and assigning access ports to machines. On the very bottom left, the Cisco Packet Tracer, there are like different icons in here that you can see. This corresponds to the devices that you want to use. So they have network devices here, like switches, router, and then there's the end devices, just like the host machines, like PC, laptop, servers. So there's also like connections, like what kind of cables you're going to use. So this is very basic, and what we are going to do here is basic switch configuration. So we are going to go and click on the network devices on the very first here, and then select on switches, and we are just going to select the 2960 switch. And then of course we are gonna need some AND devices to connect to the switch, so we are just gonna put like PC in here. So if you click on the AND devices, it will show you different machines, so just grab onto the PC and just drag and drop in here. Very basic. We need 2 machines so we can see and test our configurations later on, because what we want to do is to put them on the same VLAN so they could be talking to each other. And of course we are missing something in here. The last component to our basic simple network is the cable connections. So of course we have to connect our PC to the switch using cable, so we're just gonna use a straight through in here. It's the icon, so just connect it. Let's start with a switch and just choose fast Ethernet 01, because this is the very first machine that we are connecting. And connect it, click on the PC, and it will show you different options. It will just show you one option in here for the Ethernet, because you only have one Ethernet port, most likely for a PC. And then do the same for the next machine. Go to the switch first, click on the switch, and then select fast Ethernet 02, and then go to the PC and select the only Ethernet. That is an option. Okay, so as you can see, there's like different lights in here, and green means usually it is online. So the switch usually takes a while to be online. Like now it's turning green from orange, so usually it's just taking a few seconds. So what I usually do first is to configure the PC. So to make it easier, to make our lab easier, I usually just set up like a static IP for them, so that it'll be easier later on to test the machines. So when you click on PC, you can see like the different settings for it. As you can see in here, you can power on and off the PC in here in the physical tab. We are going to the desktop tab now, which has a lot more of the settings that you can actually do in an actual PC. But for now, you're gonna do the static IP and set it under IP configuration. So just click on IP configuration here, and then just make sure that static is selected, because that's what we want for now. And I'm just gonna use the most basic IP address out there, 192.168.1.1. okay, so no default gateway because we're not doing routing for now, just switching. So the subnet mask and IP address would be enough. So make sure to do the same to the next PC, like PC1 in here, and select on the desktop tab IP configuration, and let's do the same subnet, 192.168.1.2, because that's our second PC. Okay, same subnet mask, very basic in here. And what I usually do is I also add notes in here for the IP address, just in case I don't remember what static IP this has. At least I don't have to like click on it and check physically in here. So it'll be easier to also add notes. You can add notes to packet tracer, which makes like testing easier too later on if you're gonna make like bigger network configurations in here. So you want to click on this place note, this notepad icon in here, and if you just click on it, it will show you this cursor where you can type. And I'm just gonna type in the IP address of the first machine, which is 192.168.1.1, and same in here. So I can just click on it because I am still in this icon. So 192.168.1.2, which is our second static IP. So if you click on this, the very first icon in here, which is just selecting items and this worksheet, you can just select on it if you want to move it, just to make it look nicer and more organized. So you can see in here we have our static IP address. Okay, so that's the start of our very simple network. And I want to show you something too. So let us see if they can talk to each other since they are connected to the same switch. In order for you to do that, to test how if they can communicate to each other, let's click on the first PC, and under desktop there is a command prompt that you can use just like how you use an ordinary machine. So we can do a ping in here that usually indicates if another host is reachable. So for example, we are gonna ping this next machine to see if they can communicate or it can reach that other PC. So ping 192.168.1.2, and as you can see, it can communicate and it can reach this other PC because they are connected to the same switch. Okay, so the next thing that we can do is some basic switch configuration, and what we usually do in the workplace is configure VLANs, because VLANs, as we all know, separates the network into different logical networks. So for example, we can have a scenario in here that, for example, this first PC is a user PC. Okay, and the next PC is an accounting PC. So in the enterprise, we don't want the user PC to just reach the accounting PC. Right now, they can't connect to each other and they can communicate with each other because they are connected to the same switch with no configuration. But that's not what we want if we are doing a VLAN or a logical network. We want accounting to be a separate VLAN than the user VLAN in here. So for example, scenario logically, the user machine can be on like VLAN 2. We want to put that on VLAN 2 when we are designing our network, and accounting will be in a separate VLAN, and we can do a VLAN 3 for that, just to make sure that they are on the separate VLAN or logical network. Next is, since the switch doesn't have any configuration yet because we just put that in there, we can click on it. And as you can see, just the same as the PC in here, it has different tabs or settings that you can configure. So if you click on the switch in here, you can see the physical settings for it. And also what we want to do is to go on the CLI, which means that this is where we can enter the commands. So this is very similar to if you're SSH to the switch, or if you're trying to connect to the switch using a terminal. So as you can see, the switch is online, so we can get into it. Okay, so as you can see in here for the switch, we are on user exec. We would know that you are in user exec mode if there is a greater than sign in here after the switch name. So we want to get to the other mode, which is the privilege mode. So we have to type in enable or EN as a shortcut, and you're going to be on a different mode. Usually in the workplace, you don't have to type in enable because it usually just takes you to the enable mode in here. But if it doesn't, for our hands-on lab purposes, type in enable first, and you can see this pound sign in here, which symbolizes privilege mode. Next, we want to go to the configuration mode where we can do our configuration commands, and you can type in config T, which is short for configure terminal, or just config T, and it'll take you to a different configuration. If you see a config in open close parenthesis here after the switch name, it means that you are in the configuration mode now. Okay, so we are in configuration mode. We can make configurations and settings on our basic switch in here. So the first thing that we can do is to create our VLANs. Okay, so just to prove that we don't have any VLANs configured in this switch yet, we can exit this mode so we can do our verification commands, like the show commands. Show commands are commands that we can use to verify if there are any configurations or changes in the network devices. So we can do a show VLAN in here, or SH VLAN. You can do shortcut. And as you can see, only the default VLAN is in here, which is VLAN 1, and all of the interfaces in these switches are automatically assigned to it because it's the default. So we don't have any VLAN 2 or 3 or any other VLANs yet. So this is also a good test if you are trying to create a new VLAN and you're not sure yet if that VLAN exists, because you don't really want to override any configurations. So let's go back to our configuration mode. We can type in conf t to get back to it. Okay, now we're back. We can do our VLAN commands, and it's very basic, very simple, easy to remember. Just type in VLAN and then the number that you want to use. So we are using number 2 because we want that for our user VLAN. And you're gonna enter the VLAN mode in here where you can configure the VLAN. So we are just gonna put a name or a description in here just so we can remember what the VLAN is for. So the command is name space and the description in here. So this is just user VLAN, and if you're naming or putting a description, they don't allow spaces for it if there's more than one word. So I'm using dash in here so it'll be easier to read. So that is for our user VLAN. Okay, so now we have created VLAN 2 in here. What you want to do is to exit out of this mode because we want to create another VLAN. Okay, so that is gonna be VLAN 3. So just type in same as the first one, VLAN 3, and then you're gonna enter the configuration mode to configure VLAN 3, and same to add a description. We can type in name space the name of the VLAN or the description for the VLAN. So this is going to be accounting VLAN in here, and there we go. So if we want to check if our VLAN was created in here, we can do the same verification. So usually we exit out of the mode and get back into our privilege mode, which is just the pound sign in here, but we can force it in any modes that we want. So in Cisco, if you want to force a verification mode in any modes, just type in a do in the very beginning of the verification command, and space the show command, which is show VLAN, and then it will show us all of the VLANs in the switch. So now, as you can see, there is 2 additional VLANs in here. Earlier there's only 1, and that's VLAN 1. Now there's also VLAN 2 with the description. At least it's easier to see which VLAN you need to configure, for example. And now it's active because we just created it, and there's no ports assigned to it yet because we haven't configured that yet. So that's it, very basic if you wanted to create a VLAN for your home lab. Okay, so we are not done with the configuration yet. We just have VLANs on our switch, but we need to assign the machine to the appropriate and respective VLAN. So let's click on switch again, and it'll take us to the command line again. Let's exit out of this VLAN configuration because we don't need to configure anything for the VLAN yet. So what we want to do is to get to the port, because we are going to be configuring the port where we connected each machines. So it's just simple. We have to get the port number, which is usually called the interface in networking. So if you hover into the light, the green light, you can see it will show you that it's fast Ethernet 01, and for the next machine, the counting machine, if you hover it, it'll show you FA02, because sometimes if you have a lot of PCs or computer, you just want to make sure that it's connected to the respective interface. So that's what we want to get. So we wanted to configure this machine first for VLAN 2 and assign that port in there. What we need is the interface number, and that is the FA01. So if you click on the switch again, and we are in the correct mode, configuration mode, the command for getting into the correct interface is int, short for interface, and then the interface number or the port number. That varies too. Sometimes it's a gigabit port or fast Ethernet or Ethernet. It depends. Just make sure that you're getting the correct name for the port. So for example, in here what we have is FA0/1, and that's the first port we have in here. So you can just hover if you're not sure, and it'll show you the interface number, and then press enter, and you're now in the interface configuration, and you can now make changes for the interfaces. Okay, so what you want to do first is to configure all of these ports that are connected to the machine as access ports. So if you want to learn more about access ports, I do have a separate video about what access port is and what a trunk port is and the difference between them. But if we are assigning VLANs to one machine, like especially if it's a user machine, we are making the interface or the port access ports. So the command for that is switch port. If you press on tab, it will auto-complete for you. So it's switch port mode and then access, and press enter. That is configuring this port into an access port. So I'm gonna show you, for example, because in Cisco OS, if you have forgotten the commands, because there's a lot of commands, you can always use a question mark after the command you're trying to use. For example, if I press question mark in there, it will show me the next command that I can use. So I can configure the switch port into different modes. So we have 3 options here. It can be an access, dynamic, or a trunk. So that's how you can also check what commands you can use. So now it is configured as an access port. Next, because it's now an access port, we can assign it to a VLAN, and it's also going to be using the switch port command, and that is switch port access VLAN, the word VLAN space, and the VLAN number that you want assign it to. So in this case, we are gonna do VLAN 2 because that's what we want, and that's it. So you have assigned VLAN 2 to this port. As you can see now, it is just trying to apply the configuration, and it will take a few minutes to get it back to green or online. Also, it's very important to save every configuration that you do, even if it's a little configuration or just a few configuration that you do. Save it every time, because you'll never know if the switch will reboot, or if you forget about it and the switch reboots, then your configuration won't be saved and won't be applied to the switch. So this is how certifications or exams want you to save it, is to exit out of the different configuration modes until you get to the privilege mode, and then do this command, copy run. If you press on tab, it will auto complete, and it will mean running config. So copy run start. So you want to copy the running config to the startup config. So this is how certifications and examinations want you to save it. So it's just making sure that you want to save it. Just press enter in here, and if you see this, it means that it has saved your configuration. So in the real world, we are doing something else in here. We are doing the old command, which is write memory or just write. So that is the same as copy run start. This is also a shortcut because you're only typing like 2 letters in here, and it will do the same. It will save your configuration. Also, in the real world, for example, you're in the configuration mode, in the interface configuration mode. You can do it in any other mode if you force it, just like adding a do to your command, and it will just save it right there. Okay, so we have configured this first machine. into VLAN 2. Next is configure this machine into VLAN 3. Okay, so let's get back to the switch, and this is interface FA02. So let's just hover into it and just make sure. So it says FA02, so we're gonna configure that for VLAN 3. So let's just exit out of this and type in int FA02 to get to that correct port. And what you want to do is to configure this first as an access port. So switch port, mode, access, enter. Now it's an access port, and we can assign it VLAN 3 by typing in switch port, access, space, VLAN, space 3, and that's it. And of course, we want to save it, do right. Okay, so now it's online. Let's get back to the switch and just verify if we have the correct VLAN configuration. So we can see in here we are still in the interface configuration. We can do the command do space show VLAN, and it'll show us all of the VLAN configuration. And as you can see, VLAN 2 and 3 are in here, but now they have the port assigned to them. So this is one way to see if your configuration was applied, and one way to see also what VLAN the interface is on. Okay, so now we can test if they can communicate to each other, because earlier when we have connected it to the switch, they can reach each other. So let's click our PC in here, go to desktop and go to command prompt and do the same command, ping the static IP for this next PC, and let's wait. And as you can see, it's timing out because it's on a different VLAN now, even if it's on the same switch. So it can't reach this next VLAN because it's on a separate, different network, logical network now, which is what we want. So that's just testing our configuration here. So that's what we want to do. For example, just to test out that the VLANs are working and the same machine on the same VLAN can communicate to each other, you can modify your simple network by adding another end device in here. You can add as many devices as the port can allow for the switches. So as you can see, if you click on the switch in here and click on the config tab, you can see how many ports you can connect to the switch, how many end devices you can connect. Okay, so let's add another PC, and we want this to be another accounting PC, and let's connect it with a straight through cable and connect the next port available for it. Let's connect it to the Ethernet. So what we do first is to put a static IP on the PC. So click on desktop, IP configuration, 192.168.1.3 for example, just to make it very simple. Close that. You can add nodes too, so you can remember. It's easier for you to test later on. It's .3 and add another one like VLAN 3. So adding nodes is really helpful if you're building like more complicated networks, and as you go and build more and expand your network, it's so much easier if you have everything labeled in here. Okay, so let's go to the switch now and configure this PC as VLAN 3. So since we already have VLAN 2 and 3, we don't have to create that on this switch, so we can skip that configuration. What we want is to go into the port for this where the third machine is connected. So just hover into this if you forgot what interface it has. So it's FA03 in here, so that's what we need to configure it for the VLAN. So just type in int FA03 and you can get to the configuration mode in here, and we want to make it an access port because it wasn't configured yet. So the command is switch port mode access, and then switch port access space VLAN space 3 because we want it to be in accounting VLAN, and just enter, and don't forget to save it, like do right. Okay, now it's saved. Now we can also check and verify if it was configured properly. So you can do a do show VLAN in here. Okay, so now VLAN 3 has 2 ports assigned to it or configured to it. Alright, so we have 2 machines under VLAN for accounting and 1 machine for user VLAN. And now when we have this all online, we can test now if the VLAN configuration is working by, of course, pinging it, making sure that it's communicating and reaching the appropriate machine. So let's get started with the user VLAN first. So we have 1 machine in here. Go to command prompt, and if you ping any of the machines in here, for example, .1.3, it shouldn't reach it because it's on a separate different VLAN. Okay, so it's timing out. That's what we expect. Okay, now let's check on the accounting VLAN. So if you click on this PC, let's see if it can connect to the user VLAN first. Okay, so the user VLAN is 1.1. Okay, if you press enter, it should be timing out too. It should not be able to reach it because it's on a different VLAN. And now let's see if it can connect to the machine on the same VLAN, and that's .1.3. Let's just change this, and if it's pinging and it's showing this, it means that it is on the same VLAN and it's configured properly because it can talk to each other now. Okay, so I'm gonna show you other switch verification commands for VLAN that we can use for our labs and in the workplace. So let's get back to our switch in here, and or in the privilege mode, you can do this if you added do and force it in any other modes. So we can use the command show interface. For example, if you want to check, for example, if you want a detailed information on VLANs on a specific interface or port, for example, you just want to see all of the VLAN information and configuration that was made on this very first interface, like very first port FA01. So we can use the command show int and then the interface name FA01, for example, and then type in switch port, auto complete with a tab, and enter. And so you can see in here it has more information about that switch port. So it will show you if it's enabled or disabled, what kind of port it has configured on, if it has access port or trunk port, and you can see what VLAN number it's on. So if you want more information, you can use the show int, interface number, and switch port. Okay, so here's another verification command, and what I've shown you earlier is just for the information on a specific port or interface. Now if you want more details about a specific VLAN, what you can do is to type in show VLAN space ID space and the VLAN number. For example, we want to check out VLAN 2 in here, just type in 2 and it will show you more information just on VLAN 2, because if you do the show VLAN earlier, it will show you every VLAN that was configured in the switch. So if you just want a specific VLAN, you can use show VLAN ID 2 or 3, for example, and it will show you more specific VLANs in here, like the status of it, the ports assigned to it, the description of it, if you just want to check out one VLAN or specific VLAN. Okay, so that would be it for this video tutorial. So I have shared with you how to create your basic and simple networking home lab from scratch using Packet Tracer as a free network simulation tool, and we have focused on creating VLANs and assigning it to different ports and just making sure that we have tested it to see if our configuration is correct. So I'm going to be making more of these tutorials, and you can also check that out. I think I'll be doing port security, trunk ports. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope that you learned something from today's video tutorial, and I hope to see you guys in my next videos. Thank you so much for watching.